Hey there, and welcome to the Feel Great with Kate podcast. I cannot believe that this is episode number 50 with the podcast. We've covered so many important topics. I've gotten such good feedback from listeners like you, and I wouldn't be here without you all sharing this with people in your life, implementing the things that I talk about. That's the exact reason why I created the podcast to begin with, is to have an impact on people, to be that catalyst in small and in big ways in people's lives in order to be healthier. So in today's episode, I have a bit of a special bonus for you all. I'm talking about why habits fail and identity shifts that can actually fix it. This is going to be a special episode in the sense that I'm going to give you some background, give you some introduction, and then I'm actually going to play for you part of a module that's inside one of my exclusive group coaching programs, the High Achievers Wellness Accelerator, as kind of a thank you and appreciation back to all of you as the listeners. I know you will get so much value out of this. And believe it or not, this is actually the number one thing that goes unlooked within people's habits, any habit. All habits, including health habits. So this is for you if you're somebody who has tried to eat better. Maybe you went on a diet, maybe you did great for a few weeks and then maybe you fell off. Then something happens, like a work trip, a stressful deadline, maybe your kid's birthday party, and then you fell off again. And things just keep happening and you never seem to be able to be consistent in the habits that you know you should be doing, right? That sounds so familiar to all of us. And I want you to know something, that it's actually not a willpower problem. You don't lack willpower. The good news is that it's an identity problem. Okay. And on today's episode, I'm going to show you what that means and also show you why that distinction is very empowering and will actually help you make lasting, sustainable habits even easier in your life. Okay, so you are not alone because, believe it or not, 92% of people who set New Year's resolutions end up failing to achieve them. So the failure rate is a reflection of, unfortunately, the human condition. But I also think we don't know how to set goals. There's a lot of psychology out there that says that it can take on average 66 days to form a new habit until you no longer think about it anymore. And that is part of the problem as to why our habits can fail, is that most people will end up quitting before they actually have success in making their habits stick. To put this whole thing in perspective, that it's not about willpower, it's more about identity. A study published in an obesity review actually found that people who identified as a healthy eater maintained weight loss 2.5 times longer than those who identified as somebody on a diet. So this is how our identity-based framing actually can change our outcomes and change the results that we're seeing in our health. I know from coaching clients now for several years, I have seen this time and time again. For example, one client came to me because she wanted to lose about 15 pounds of weight. And actually, we didn't start with her nutrition. We didn't even start with her blood sugar. She wanted to first optimize her sleep, because she knew that that's what needed help and what would help give her a good morning routine. And if she could just have a good morning routine, she thought that maybe the rest of the day would go smoothly. And she was right. So what this led to is that we optimized her sleep hygiene, we optimized her morning routine, and over 3 weeks, she didn't fight cravings, but she saw a dramatic reduction in her sugar cravings. She had actually shifted her identity as somebody who used to stay up late, not take care of herself, to somebody that took care of herself and went to bed early. And that made the cravings go away. And that made it really easy for her to overcome her sugar addiction to ice cream at the time in a way that didn't feel depriving to her. In my coaching program, I get into more detail around the top reasons why high performers fail in their habits. One of them is all or nothing thinking, meaning you think that if you can't do it perfectly, you don't want to do it at all. Another big one is decision fatigue, that come, 7 p.m. for dinner, you've already made 500 decisions that day with your busy schedule and your demanding career, that you don't have the mental bandwidth to also decide what's for dinner. So you bow out, you deflect to what's easy. And then also the most common one I see is the consistency roller coaster, thinking I'll get back on track when things calm down. And we know that that's not how life works, because things never really seem to, quote unquote, calm down. And I lived that one when I was in busy season after working 5 years in tax accounting and then 5 more years in finance consulting. I know exactly what it's like to just have really demanding things for your time, your schedule, be traveling every week, work 60 hours a week and then just tell yourself that like you'll catch up on it. And you guys, I know that it's hard to hear, but that is not the way. That is not the way that we support our health today, support our health in the future. And not to mention, it's just not a good recipe for feeling or looking your best right now. I know that you are going to get so many insights and valuable nuggets out of today's special episode. So without further ado, please enjoy listening to this clip from the module in the High Achievers Wellness Accelerator on why habits keep failing and the identity shifts to make instead. Hey there, and welcome to the Raise Your Standards module. Congratulations on making it this far through the program. And now it's time to talk about how do we approach these habits and things that we want to maintain and, if not, raise in order to maintain your health, optimize your nutrition, and all the other facets of your performance that we've worked on throughout this program. So this is where we're going to be talking about how lasting habits occur and what most people oftentimes missed. So really what we're talking about, or what we want to identify, is that we need to, when we're creating new habits, as you'll find out, we want to embrace the identity of someone who already lives those habits and is making those behaviors a natural outflow of who you've become. This will become more clear after this module. If you haven't done any identity work or you're not familiar with some of these terminologies, really what I mean by identity is just what you think about yourself, right? Some of identity can be a little bit elusive, meaning, you're somebody who identifies with eating well, then eating nutritious-based foods will come really easily to you. If you're somebody who identifies with being a really on top of your life, then maybe it's not so hard to stay organized on your inbox, for another example, right? So identity can happen in many different ways, and it's the beliefs that you believe are true about you. Okay, so that's what I'm referring to when I say identity. So let's ask ourselves the question, why do most habits fail? And I want you to specifically think about the context of this program and why, or not why, but how you can make sure you maintain the things that you've built and continue to optimize and uplevel going forward. So I want more than anything for you to keep and maintain the habits that you've built in this program and make it just a way of life for you, something that comes easy, something that you don't even second guess yourself on. So asking the question, why do most habits fail? Well, James Clear said it best. He says, you might start a habit because of motivation, but the only reason you'll stick to one is that it becomes part of your identity. So using this, we know that most habits fail because it fails to become part of your identity. And this is so true and so evident when you think of, like a typical diet program, right? That's something that you just eat a specific diet for 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it is. And then afterwards you fall off the wagon. Why is that? It's because you let that program be separate from yourself. It was just something you were doing. It wasn't something you were becoming. Okay, let me say that a different way. So if you're on a 30-day diet, that's not who you are, it's what you're doing. Now, if you're somebody who's working to eat nutritious foods over the course of weeks and months, you start to become somebody who, I eat healthy, I take care of my body, I choose nutritious food. That's who you've become. And oftentimes, I know from my experience with my own nutrition, I've done different diets and tried different things. The number one thing you're looking forward to is like day 31 or the day after the diet or the program is supposed to end. Because why? Because you get to have that thing. You get to have, the donut or the alcohol or whatever you've been depriving yourself of. You can't wait to have it. We're avoiding that situation. True lasting habit change comes from creating a place of sustainability, not deprivation. Okay. All right. So a quick recap of talking about habits versus routines. So I like to use these things simultaneously because, as you'll see here, habits and routines are similar and it's a sliding scale depending on the person and habit. So habits are generally more automatic, they're a single action, they're usually more ingrained and they're triggered by cues. So it's sort of something you think about without doing. Routines, on the other hand, can be require a little bit more effort, multiple steps. It evolves over time and it's done with intention, meaning it's not so much triggered by cues, but You're prompting yourself to do it, and you're using, energy to make it happen. But I have found just realistically that it just depends, what's a habit for me might be a routine for you or vice versa. So for my purposes, I just refer to habits and routines as the same thing. Okay, so now we're talking about going back to this identity topic, or diving deeper into this identity topic. So if your desired goal is, I want to eat healthier, the required identity for you to maintain that is, I'm a healthy eater. If your desired goal is to meditate daily, the required identity would be, I'm a meditator, right? You see where this is going. If you are somebody who wants to save money, you need to have the identity of, I'm a saver, right? Or you are easily able to save money. You can play around with the wording here on the identity piece. It can be something like, saving money comes easily to me, something like that, right? It doesn't have to be these exact things, but you get the point. Where it's like, I want to learn a new language. I'm a language learner. Maybe that's, it's kind of just specific here, but the whole point is that you want to really think about who is somebody who has already the goal, and what would they think about themselves as it pertains to that specific goal. So think about like an athlete, right? There's somebody who has confidence in themselves to perform on the court or on the field. They likely have the identity as somebody who shows up to practice, right? Who doesn't let their teammates down, who listens and respects their coach, right? That would be 3 identities, all related to that same performance goal of being good at that sport, right? So you see where this is going. So I want to ask yourself, what's the biggest challenge when it comes to eating well or taking care of yourself? I know we've talked about this many times already in this program, but I have shared before that the biggest thing I hear from busy professionals is that it's time, it's lack of time gets in the way, or another way to say that would be competing priorities. And instead, I want to reframe that and explain to you that, when we tell ourselves that we're busy and other people that we're busy, all we're really doing is keeping ourselves perpetually busy. Okay, so this is some tough love, because how easy is it when somebody asks you, hey, how have you been? Or hey, how are you? And you say, good, just busy. No, busy means that you are having too many things to do and you're not able to prioritize effectively. And as we'll find out, you're not aware of and making the decision of the proper trade-offs that are required. Ultimately, what we end up getting done is exactly what we make time for. Okay, and that's just the truth of it. So why are we more busy if the time is going to pass at the same rate anyway? Okay, so I love this one. Inviting in this idea of Parkinson's law, which states work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So helpful, right? In the context of also being busy. If you're like, but Kaitlin, I still have so much to do on my to-do list. Okay, well, how much time are you allocating for yourself to do it? Because the more time you allocate for a specific task, the longer it'll take for you to finish. That's the basis of Parkinson's law. Or if you have set a shorter deadline, then you will get it done quicker. Okay, so really thinking about how often are you letting yourself procrastinate that's leading to inefficiency. Not to mention that the more we procrastinate or, again, perpetuate this idea of being busy, we're taking on an excess mental load unnecessarily. Meaning if you were to just get the thing done, or tell yourself that you're not going to do it, make that trade-off and say, today, I'm only able to do these 5 things and these other 27 things cannot get done. You're giving yourself permission to take that off of your mental load, thus increasing your energy and brain capacity to do the other things that you actually are going to do. So instead of saying, thinking yourself as busy, say this to yourself instead. I get everything that needs to get done. I always make time for what's most important, because that's reality. That's what we do. The work expands to fill the time I give it. It always gets done. The work always gets done. I'm not busy. I'm just scattered. Not all time is created equal. Time expands when I'm present. Oh man, this is such a good one. Not all time is created equal. All right, so that wraps up this short video I wanted to explain to you on why most habits fail. And again, going back to the identity piece, And in the coming videos and in this module, we'll work towards what are those non-negotiable habits and what are some identities that come along with it.